I miss you." At her words, my face turned as red as a lobster. "So, does that mean you want to come over to my place, Natalie?" When I asked for confirmation, she also blushed. She covered her face with both hands. Apparently, she tends to make natural and careless remarks. Heart pounding, I raised both my hands. "My name is Jason, I'm 30 years old. I'm a truck driver. Today, like any other day, I picked up cargo at the airport to transport it to various destinations. As a kid, I once got to ride in my father's long-haul truck for a field trip. He looked cool driving, hauling cargo, and communicating with clients, and I decided I wanted to be like him when I grew up. It's noon now. At a convenience store big enough for my truck, I bought lunch and was taking a break when my phone rang. It was Derek. He's been my close friend since middle school, and believe it or not, he's now a pilot. Though we both drive for a living, our jobs couldn't be more different, yet we've stayed good friends. "Hey, what's up?" I answered the phone casually, hearing a chuckle from the other end. "That's your opener. No, long time no see. Or how are you?" It's hardly long time no see, when we just saw each other briefly at the airport last week. When I'm loading cargo at the airport, Derek sometimes pops up. If my work schedule and Derek's free time align, he comes over to see me. I think he's really diligent. By the way, I've never gone out of my way to look for him. Well, whatever. I've got a reason to. You free next Sunday? Hang out with me? I grimaced, unseen on the other end. Don't assume I'm free. But I am. What are we doing? I'm not up for a date with you. I joked, and Derek laughed. I wouldn't want that either. Actually, I've got a dinner planned with a girl, but it turns out she's bringing a friend. I don't want to be the only guy. Can you come? The friend is a flight attendant. At the end, I could almost see his mischievous grin through the phone. Even if I dine with a flight attendant, what good does it do me? I'd just be making you look good. Have you got your eye on one of them? As I spoke, he fumbled for words. Such a transparent guy. Geez, fine. I'll be your wingman then. Both of them are probably after you. It's cruel, really. You should introduce them to some better guys. As I mixed self-deprecation with my response, his tone became serious. You're a good man, you know. His sudden compliment made me a bit embarrassed. Come on, there's no comparison between a glamorous pilot like you and a truck driver like me. See ya. I hung up the phone, feeling awkward. I suppressed a grin. That guy, he really is a good guy. Just one kind word from him lifted my spirits, and I sang to myself while driving. A week later, dressed in the best outfit from my drawer, I met up with Derek. Tall and handsome, he looks good in anything he wears. That day, he was dressed in a fine white knit sweater paired with jeans. Hope you spill pasta sauce all over that. I teased, and he chuckled. Maybe I'll skip ordering anything with tomato sauce. The venue today was an Italian restaurant. Fancy pasta doesn't suit me, but this place has a salad bar with an authentic curry included. While picking a restaurant that would appeal to the ladies, Derek also considered my tastes. From my perspective, he is the perfect guy. It's hard to believe he's still single at this age. After a while, two women arrived at the restaurant, both smiling. Sitting across from Derek was Amber. She's a cute woman with short black hair that suits her well. Her knee-length pink dress also looks great on her. Sitting across from me was Natalie. This beauty had her black hair pulled back into a bun, looking as if she came straight from work. She was dressed in a striped shirt and pants. Her good figure was obvious at a glance. Both of them, 2 years younger than us, are 28-year-old flight attendants. After introductions were made, Derek started chatting amiably with Amber, who was sitting in front of him. I wondered if she was the one he was interested in as I observed them. It's so obvious, Natalie and I might as well not even be here. Honestly, I'm not the type who's good with words, nor am I a guy who can chat up women easily. Usually, I mutter to myself while driving my truck and laugh heartily with the old guys at client sites. While wondering what to talk about with her, I safely started a conversation about the weather and the temperature, and she kindly smiled at such dull chatter. After a while, the waiter came to take our orders, and salad plates were distributed to everyone. "Derek, let's go," Amber said in a sweet voice, inviting him. Derek, with a slight smile, asked Natalie and me, "Can we go ahead and get our food first?" In such a setting, I couldn't say no, so I gestured for them to go ahead. I thought we all could have gone together to get our food, but if they say they'll go first, we just have to wait. Left alone at the table, feeling a bit bewildered, Natalie quietly started talking to me. "I'm sorry. That girl, Amber, likes Derek." I was a bit surprised. I thought both of them liked him. Actually, Amber initially invited him to dinner. He gently declined, citing that being alone together might lead to misunderstandings. What a situation to be in. Then, finding Natalie nearby, Amber quickly grabbed her, saying, "If she is with us, it won't be just the two of us, right?" And that's how Natalie got roped into this. She asked for my help. I couldn't say no. I hesitated a little, then asked quietly, "So, Natalie, do you also like Derek?" I trailed off, but she shook her head with a smile. "I respect him as a pilot, but I have no romantic feelings for him. I know how Amber feels, and besides, I have no desire to get married." Such beauty, and no desire to marry, what a waste. Oh, maybe not. Was that a subtle hint for me? This meeting was orchestrated for Derek and Amber, and we were just extras. And these extras weren't going to end up together, just to be clear. I chuckled to myself, but knowing the situation made it easier not to feel pressured. I just needed to have a pleasant conversation with this beautiful woman for about 2 hours. Just as they returned, we headed to the salad bar. I filled my plate to the brim with salad and then headed to the curry station to heap on some rice. I topped it off with what turned out to be green curry. Seeing my plate, Natalie's eyes widened. "Are you really going to eat that much curry, even though the pasta is coming?" I grinned and replied playfully, "Because my job is physically demanding." She chuckled softly, "But the curry does look delicious. You don't often find all-you-can-eat green curry, do you?" "I wish I could have some too," she said, looking sadly at my plate. Apparently, if she starts eating curry, she won't be able to finish your pasta. "If you'd like, maybe I could take some of your pasta." When I suggested this, she blushed deeply. "What? No, that's okay. I mean, I couldn't have you eating my leftovers." I was puzzled. "No, if you just share some pasta with me first, it won't be leftovers." At my words, she turned even redder. "Oh, right, yes, that makes sense. Oh, how embarrassing." Trying to suppress my growing affection for the deeply blushing Natalie, I smiled. Then it settled. I really wanted to try the cream sauce pasta you ordered. Seeing her still embarrassed, I quickly returned to our table. Back at the table, Amber was startled by the amount on my plate. Meanwhile, Derek, familiar with my hearty appetite, looked unfazed. But he warned, "You're reaching the age when metabolism starts to slow down. Don't overeat, or you'll end up a fat old man." Still, they were engaged in conversation, so I started eating my salad and curry. "Delicious," I inadvertently exclaimed, interrupting their conversation. "Is it really that good?" When asked, I nodded vigorously. Just then, Natalie returned. Her plate had just a modest amount of rice and curry. She took a bite and her eyes widened. "This is awesome." Hearing this, Derek stood up. I'll get some myself. Followed by Amber, who also got up. I want some too, but, oh, my diet, she said. Despite her hesitation, she ended up following him. Once again left alone at the table, we shared a wry smile. Even though the four of us were supposed to be together, it often ended up with just the two of us chatting. The more we talked, the more it became clear how much Natalie loved her job. I don't want to quit my job. That's why I don't want to get married. At her words, I tilted my head. Why would you have to quit your job if you got married? Isn't it normal for both partners to work these days? She smiled wryly at my question. Being a flight attendant is pretty demanding. I often have to work shifts like 2 nights and 3 days, or 3 nights and 4 days, making it hard to balance work and home life. I see, so she often has to be away from home. Then a husband who supports you would be great. There must be plenty of men who'd want to support someone like you. I laughed heartily, but she just gave a wry smile. Men, even if they say that, they still have their pride. Her expression was a bit sad. Actually, my mom was a flight attendant too. Hearing this, I was surprised. A mother-daughter pair of flight attendants. That's amazing. She blushed a bit. She didn't plan to marry either, but my dad kept confessing and proposing, insisting he would support her, and she married him thinking he was the one, but... Her face clouded over. By the time I was old enough to understand, he had become an abusive drunk. My heart sank. Just a few years into maintaining a household, it seems he grew weary of it. Especially around 30 years ago, the belief that men worked outside and women maintained the home was still strongly prevalent. While his colleagues advanced in their careers, he had to leave work on time to take care of his daughter. Cooking, doing laundry, cleaning. Why should I, a man, be doing what women are traditionally supposed to do? And my beloved wife rarely comes home. This became more apparent after their daughter Natalie was born. Despite giving up career advancement to support his wife, he couldn't adapt to the life of supporting his daughter as well. And then my mother, she quit the job she loved, Natalie muttered with a hint of anger. With a hint of anger, she muttered. After quitting her job and trying to stabilize the family, she struggled, but ultimately, their relationship did not improve, leading to divorce. Her father, possibly affected by his drinking, passed away a few years after the divorce. No matter how much they promise to support you before marriage, I just can't trust it. Seeing Natalie suppress her anger and force a smile pained my heart. In my family, my father was a truck driver, and my mother worked part-time. Similar to her situation, my long-haul truck driver father would be away for days on end. During that time, my mother took on all the household responsibilities. Although usually gentle, she would scold us brothers fiercely if we misbehaved. It was as if she were taking his place. And when he came home, she would cook delicious meals, and we would all gather around the dinner table. Probably because your mother was there to maintain the home, you have happy memories, right? Natalie suggested. I shook my head. At one point, she found a job she wanted to do, I said. Natalie looked surprised. She became a tour guide for international trips. Her eyes widened even more. Originally proficient in French, she had worked vigorously as a tour guide before marrying my father. After marrying and deciding to start a family, she quit her job, but while she was happy at home, meeting an old colleague from her tour guide days inspired her to work again. She thought she'd wait until all the children were grown, but wanting to keep her French up to scratch, she suggested to my father that she'd like to study French again. Without hesitation, he said she could just go back to being a tour guide. When she expressed concern about being away from home for days, he promised to switch to shorter truck routes to support the home. Thus, he truly requested a job transfer at his company, which was granted, and he managed the household perfectly. Your father, that's incredible," Natalie said, her voice filled with admiration. "So, Natalie, if you really want to continue as a flight attendant, there are people who will support you," I said with a smile. That's when Derek interjected. "If it was Jason, he'd support you wholeheartedly." Suddenly joining in, he said so. "Man, you're silly. Why would someone like Natalie consider someone like me?" Speaking to Derek, my tone became casual. Regretting my rough language in front of a lady, Derek just grinned. "Hey, how's that cat you saved doing?" With the topic suddenly changing, I was taken aback. "What?" Natalie gasped softly, and I frowned. "Yes, it's fine now. The wounds have healed, and it no longer needs that annoying thing around its neck." "The Elizabethan collar, right? Is that the one at the airport?" Natalie asked in a trembling voice. "Yeah, that's right. As I was about to leave the airport after loading up the truck, some jerk hit a cat and just drove off. The car that hit the cat just drove away. In a panic, I parked my truck nearby and rushed to the cat. It was limp, but still breathing, so I quickly took it to a vet, promised to pick it up after work, and even called several times during the day to check on its condition. When I finally finished work and went to pick up the cat, it was bandaged up in several places and had an Elizabethan collar around its neck, trembling with anxiety. It's still not quite used to me, gets a bit scratchy, but it's really cute." As I slackened my cheeks fondly, Natalie trembled. "It was you. Did you know?" Derek nodded knowingly. I was clueless. "What do you mean?" When I asked, Derek explained. "The day I rescued the cat." By coincidence, Derek and Natalie, who were also at the parking lot walking to work, witnessed the cat being hit by the car. The two of them ran towards the scene, but I was quicker. When I swiftly jumped out of the driver's seat and took care of the cat, Natalie murmured, "That's wonderful." I've never seen Natalie look so enchanted before. I thought maybe, just maybe, you two might hit it off. I wasn't going to say anything if your conversation didn't go well, but the vibes seem good, right? Derek said, glancing at Amber. "Yet, it's a good mood. Jason seems like he would listen to all of Natalie's whims," Amber said, grinning and resting her chin on her hand. Then, Derek and Amber stood up. "Well, we'll leave you two alone then," they said, linking arms. "What?" Natalie exclaimed in surprise. "Actually, we're dating. It's a secret, okay?" Natalie, with her mouth agape, stammered, "But I thought you admired him, and I was helping out." "It only became official recently. I had to keep up the admiring act, right?" Amber said with a mischievous smile. "Derek told me he wanted me to meet someone, so I helped out. It seems the whole setup was for me and Natalie." "Look, Natalie, in my opinion, Jason is the best guy I know. You can trust him," Derek said with a flashy wink, then even paid the bill before leaving the restaurant. Left alone, we were enveloped in silence. "Sorry, this turned out to be a weird kind of mixer," she said, her face turning red. "No, it's okay." The silence felt uncomfortable, so I offered her my phone. "Want to see the cat?" As I brought up the photo of the cat on the screen and handed it to Natalie, she asked, "It's cute. What's its name?" As Natalie touched my phone, I felt increasingly aware of her. Despite trying not to think about it, her earlier compliment and being told we were a good match made me conscious. "I picked it up at the airport, so, airport," I said, revealing the simple name I had given it. Derek had laughed heartily at my straightforward naming. But Natalie didn't laugh. "It's cute." Praising the name airport made my heart race. "I'd like to meet it." I blushed red like a lobster. "So, does that mean you want to come over to my place, Natalie?" When I asked for confirmation, her face turned bright red. What? No, not like that, I mean, yes, it is like that, I'm being forward. She covered her face with both hands. It seems she sometimes makes naive and unintentional remarks. Please, come and play with the cat. I promise I won't make any moves. I won't do anything. I raised both hands as a sign of my promise. Seeing my hands raised and my earnest face, Natalie burst into laughter. I trust you. I firmly maintained my composure and nodded seriously. I had planned to set another day, but Natalie seemed eager to come to my place right then. Pointing this out might make her flustered again, so I decided to just bring her home. She had come by train, and I had driven. The ride in the cramped car was a bit nerve-wracking for both of us. We arrived at my small, shabby apartment. I live here alone. Thanks to the lenient pet policies of the rundown apartment, the landlord easily allowed it. As I unlocked the door and we entered, the cries of Airport echoed immediately. Airport, deciding not to exert any unnecessary effort, finally warmed up a bit after seeing me. Usually, it just meows once and then zones out, but knowing there was a guest, Airport started circling around Natalie, sniffing and observing her. I chuckled wryly, urged her to sit wherever she liked, and started boiling some water. She looked around the room curiously. It's quite clean, cleaner than my place, maybe. Hearing this, I chuckled. I don't have many belongings to begin with, and my parents drilled into me the importance of housekeeping. Like my father suddenly taking over the household chores to support my mother's job, life is unpredictable, and they wanted me to be able to manage on my own, so I was thoroughly trained in domestic chores. Hearing this, Natalie smiled and petted Airport, saying, "You really have wonderful parents." Really, it's settling in. I was astounded. It rarely came close to me. Yet here it was, purring and cuddling up to her. Maybe you would be better off as its owner. As I served the tea, she shook her head sadly. No, I can't. I'm away from home too much. Then, looking at me as if realizing something, she asked, "By the way, Jason, aren't you often away as well? What do you do with Airport when you're gone?" Scratching my head, I admitted, "Actually, I got a transfer." Natalie's eyes widened. Picking up the cat made me first consider what would happen while I was away. I thought about having my parents take care of it, but since I was the one who found it, I felt responsible to handle it myself. My company has two main operations: loading cargo at the airport and transporting it long distance, and loading cargo and distributing it within the county. I applied for a transfer to the local distribution. Actually, I swapped places with my father. My father, who works at the same company, had switched to local routes after deciding to support the household, and had continued on that path. When I discussed the cat with him, he casually said, "Then, how about we switch? I don't have to be home as much now that you kids are all grown up." And he went straight to our boss, President Thompson, to make it official. I was worried about him suddenly switching to long distance at his age, but he has always loved driving and took pride in his long-haul work. Now, he's happily back on long-distance routes. "You changed your work style for the cat." She was amazed, her eyes wide in surprise. "Of course, I'm responsible for a life, after all." Natalie covered her face. "What's wrong?" Concerned she might be feeling unwell, I was met with a shocking confession. "I think I'm falling for you, Jason." "What?" I yelled out in surprise, so loudly that the neighbor banged on the wall. I had forgotten about the thin walls. Decades later. "Hannah, Tommy, did you brush your teeth? Got everything ready?" My calls were met with a languid reply from Tommy, a first grader, and a firm "I already did it" from Hannah, a responsible third grader. These were the precious children Natalie and I had together. Unbelievably, since then, we started dating, moved in together on a trial basis without any major issues, and despite my doubts about proposing to a beautiful flight attendant like her, I went ahead with a proposal, prepared for rejection. But Natalie excitedly exclaimed, "I've been waiting for this. I've always been waiting. I'm so happy." And she hugged me tightly. She confessed she couldn't say it herself because she felt like she would be a burden. But that wasn't true at all. Indeed, being a flight attendant is demanding. Only after we started dating did I fully realize it. Even though I knew about Derek's pilot schedule, the actual days I could spend with Natalie were incredibly few. Although I sometimes felt lonely, seeing Natalie so vibrant and passionate about her work was incredibly heartwarming. She was truly precious to me. At the same time, I discovered that Natalie was quite disorganized when it came to personal life. The first time I visited her apartment, I was surprised. It looked tidy at a glance, but suddenly, a closet's contents came tumbling out like an avalanche. I couldn't stop laughing. It was like something out of a cartoon. What she struggled with, I excelled at. Conversely, things like shopping, meal planning, and organizing dates and trips, which I'm bad at, were Natalie's strengths. Currently, Natalie buys groceries in bulk on her days off and prepares meal plans. I follow these plans and cook accordingly. Sometimes, we sneak out for a meal, but I make up for it by using the extra ingredients to prepare lunch boxes during the day. In the evening, Natalie returned home laden with bags. The kids joyously greeted her. Airport, now quite an old cat but still sprightly, slowly joined the welcoming circle. I love this scene, where our entire family gathers at the entrance. Welcome home. I cherish being able to say these words every time. I'm home, thanks for everything. Natalie always adds a thank you. After the family dinner, Natalie bathed with the kids and read them a bedtime story. Usually, the kids head straight to bed when it's time to sleep, but they always wait for Natalie to read to them when she's home. It must be an irreplaceable time for Natalie too. After putting the kids to bed, Natalie came out of the bedroom and smiled at me. I made some tea, and we sat side by side on the sofa. Amber just asked where we're planning to go for the kids' summer vacation. Any ideas? I responded with a smile. How about camping? Or an amusement park? What if we do both? That sounds great. Derek and Amber got married a few years ago. Amber quit her job as a flight attendant to support Derek's demanding career. She had always planned to scale back her career no matter whom she married. Our families regularly interact as one big group. Thinking back to when I rescued Airport the cat, if Derek had not noticed Natalie's words then, we might not have this happiness today. Blessed with parents who respected each other's careers, I've been able to honor Natalie's profession in the same way. I am grateful for all these serendipitous connections. Watching Natalie excitedly discuss our next vacation, I cherished the happiness we have now.
Don't lay a finger on my wife. I won't let you touch her.
I was kicked from behind by the department head, Michael, and fell flat on my face. At first, I didn't understand what had happened. Michael is supposed to be single. Still, I wonder what's going on in his head, claiming Hannah is his wife. Hannah gave him, who presumptuously treated her as his wife, a disgusted look. If we don't stop his emotional runaway, the worst could happen.
Why would I be your wife? I'm already married. Hannah is the daughter of Chairman Morgan, and she's my wife. But the last name is...
Reluctantly, I began to explain to him in detail. My name is Tom Taylor. I'm a 42-year-old who works in the sales department of a multinational trading company. My main job is to import and export various goods, and our sales department can be considered the flagship of the company. Being able to speak foreign languages was a must for getting the job since we deal a lot with overseas transactions. I'm especially grateful to my parents for this. My father is American, and my mother is Japanese. My father, who worked for a global trading company like I do now, moved us around various countries since I was young. That's why I can speak English, French, Spanish, and Japanese. I returned to the US when I was in the first year of high school and spent 3 years getting accustomed to the American culture and customs. When it was time to go to college, I had many options but chose to attend a renowned state university in the US. Having spent much time abroad, I wanted to cherish my roots even more. I obtained US citizenship when I was 20. After graduating, wanting to work in a broader world, I joined a multinational trading company. I finally landed a job in sales, making the world my workplace. Time flies, and it has been about 20 years since then. Before I knew it, I had passed the age of 40. I often joke, shoot, I forgot to get married, which always gets a laugh. Don't forget the important things. It's not too late to start looking for someone to marry. Marriage is wonderful. You should experience the joy of having a family soon. Then, Hannah Morgan joined our sales team. She had been working in a different field and had recently switched to our company. She has a bright smile and is quite beautiful without being pretentious. Her voice was also surprisingly charming, and I often found myself enchanted by it. I was not the only one drawn to her charms. Sometimes, I would ask what her previous job was, but she would lightly deflect the question. Judging that it might be a sensitive issue, I didn't ask any further. As colleagues in the same department, we had many opportunities to work together. For me, who was attracted to her, seeing her every day at the company felt like a reward. Honestly, when we walk together, we definitely turn heads. I have mixed race features, and I'm 6'2" feet tall. Hannah is also tall, about 5'7", and we look well matched when we walk side by side. Furthermore, with her almond-shaped ties, she looks like she could be a model in Paris. It doesn't feel bad at all when people say we look great together. She seemed to feel the same way. At the time, I was 40 and she was 28. Both of us, despite not looking the part, were tentatively exploring our feelings. Then, a major personnel change occurred, and Michael became the head of the sales department. He was 53, single. Before him, I had been the oldest and single guy in our department, but now there was someone older. It's hard to say in a word whether he was competent or not. He has an impressive education, having graduated from Stanford University's doctoral program. However, whether he had climbed the ranks smoothly was questionable. Being 53 and just becoming a sales manager is not exactly a rapid promotion. We thought there might have been some issues, and tried to avoid him outside of necessary work interactions. Gradually, the nature of the discomfort we vaguely felt became clear. He had what you might call a geeky personality. The reason he had remained single until 53 was probably due to his busy schedule following his favorite characters. To him, fictional women seemed to be more of romantic interests than real-life women. This was a world completely foreign to me, but Hannah showed some understanding.
Some people are like that, but I don't think it's right to view it as abnormal. Everyone has their hobbies and ways of living.
Her understanding, unfortunately, backfired. Michael began to blatantly interfere with Hannah.
You really get it, Hannah. No one else here understands me. Well, I'm not that familiar with it either, but anime and such are famous aspects of Japanese culture, and that's wonderful. Yes, exactly. It's Japanese culture. Hannah, it feels great when you support me with your cute voice.
She probably realized her mistake. She gave a forced smile, trying to get through the awkward situation. However, he didn't think she was bothered at all. He kept approaching her for trivial tasks.
Hannah, could you read this document out loud for me? I think I'll understand it better hearing it in your cute voice.
The rest of us in the sales department felt this couldn't continue. We had to protect her somehow. Whenever he tried to approach her, we'd subtly get in the way. Then suddenly, I was assigned to work overseas in Singapore for 3 years. Everyone in the department was furious, suspecting Michael's hand in it. But as a company employee, I had to accept the personnel decision. Being separated from her for 3 years was the hardest part. That was when I first realized how seriously I cared for her. She cheered me up with her bright spirit.
It's just a 19-hour flight. We can video call now so we can see each other anytime. Hannah, not 3 years. Just hold on for 2. I'll make a big impact and come back here soon. Okay, I'll wait. And Tom, don't you dare cheat.
In the end, the transfer became a catalyst for us to express our feelings to each other. I made sure she wouldn't feel lonely and prepared thoroughly before departing for Singapore. Singapore is a vibrant country with a mix of many cultures. Living alone as a man, I don't really feel any inconvenience. Certainly, the temperature here is higher than in America, but those who like summer would enjoy it. Eager to return as soon as possible, I devote myself passionately to work. Whenever I can get Monday off in addition to the weekend, I hop on a plane to America to spend time with Hannah. She also uses her vacation days to come to Singapore. When she visits, we don't just stay in Singapore. We travel together to countries like the Philippines, Malaysia, and India. My stint in Singapore definitely deepened our bond. You never know what will trigger significant changes in life. Thus, I kept delivering results one after another at the Singapore branch. Moreover, all my deals involved the US branch. This was all to ensure that I wouldn't be transferred to another country's branch in the next personnel change. 2 years passed, and I was able to return to the US branch 1 year earlier than planned. Hannah told me that not only she but also the other sales staff were looking forward to my return. However, she said nothing in particular about what Michael thought. My modest hope that he might have been transferred to a different department during these 2 years was dashed. This is how I came to meet Michael again after 2 years. When I landed at the airport and stepped off the plane, I saw Hannah waving from beyond the gate. As I approached with my luggage, she came up with a bright smile and hugged me.
Welcome back, Tom. Are you heading straight to the office from here? I'd like to report back today. I can take it easy for the next few days since I'll have some days off.
We held hands as we left the airport and got into a taxi. The scenery outside the window was all too familiar. Although I had returned several times during my assignment, I had always been out sightseeing with Hannah, so I was somewhat out of touch with the changes in New York. Holding her hand tightly, I asked about a concern that had been on my mind.
Is Michael still the same? Has his attitude improved at all? Not at all. I didn't talk about it much because I didn't want to worry you while you were in Singapore, but he hasn't changed a bit. Now that I'm back, I won't let him pull any strange stunts anymore. I'm sorry you had to endure so much.
Hannah rested her head on my shoulder, acting affectionately. I was happy and gently held her waist. As we were doing so, the taxi pulled up in front of the company. After paying the fare, we entered the building together. We took the elevator to the sales department on the 5th floor. As we got off the elevator, the familiar floor of the sales department came into view.
Tom, you're finally back. Welcome back, Tom. We've been waiting for you.
Greeted with smiles by my colleagues, I smiled back. Suddenly, I was kicked in the back and fell face down.
Don't touch my wife. I won't let you lay a finger on her.
It was Michael who had kicked me from behind. At first, I didn't understand what had happened. He was supposed to be single. Still, I wondered what was going on in his head, claiming Hannah as his wife.
Tom, are you okay? Michael, what are you doing? It's because he's getting too familiar with my wife.
I got up on my hands and reassured Hannah, "I'm okay." Hannah gave Michael, who presumptuously treated her as his wife, a disgusted look. If we don't stop his emotional runaway, the worst could happen. Now that I was back, it was clear something had to be settled. Determined, Hannah confronted Michael with the truth.
Why would I be your wife, Michael? I'm already married.
It must have been a shocking revelation for Michael. Sure enough, his voice cracked as he responded.
What? Married? What kind of joke is that? Hannah is my wife.
That's when I delivered another staggering fact.
Hannah is the daughter of Chairman Morgan, and she is my wife. But her last name is...
Reluctantly, I started to explain the situation to Michael in more detail. Indeed, my surname is Taylor, and Hannah's maiden name was Morgan. However, she uses her maiden name at work because it's more convenient for professional purposes. On our marriage certificate, she is registered as Hannah Taylor. She then said, "Here's the proof," and pulled out her driver's license from her bag. Next to her photo on the license, it read Hannah Taylor. Michael's eyes widened, his face a picture of disbelief.
When on earth did you get married? I had no idea. Well, of course, you didn't know. It was a secret. Plus, right after we got married, I was transferred to Singapore. We talked about going together, but Hannah stayed in the US because she was worried about her father.
Our decision to marry came after my transfer to Singapore was confirmed. The moment we knew we would have to live apart, our feelings solidified. That was when I first learned that Hannah was the daughter of our company's chairman, Mr. Morgan. One might assume that the chairman of a multinational company would be a foreigner, but I had heard that our company's chairman was American. Apparently, the founders were a duo, one American and one Japanese, and the American founder was Chairman Morgan's father. Because of such a background, Hannah was raised without any financial troubles. Her mother passed away when Hannah was young, and her father, Chairman George Morgan, raised her with great care. Hannah, having deep interactions with international figures, grew to love the country and culture of her American roots. Since my parents lived abroad, the only people present at our first family meeting were me, Hannah, and George. I was relieved that he was pleased with our marriage. Apparently, George had suspected something about our relationship and had conducted a background check on me a little while ago. After the investigation confirmed my good reputation at work and my sincere approach to life, he felt comfortable entrusting his daughter to me. Hearing this, I was merely overwhelmed. We decided not to have a wedding ceremony. Hannah wanted to keep her identity as the chairman's daughter hidden at work and continue her job as before. We informed only a few close friends and asked them not to disclose it. She continued to use the Morgan surname and remained in the same sales department as me. Some people say that spouses should work in different departments, but we had been working together even before marriage, and it had helped us excel. We wanted to keep working together as a team. Thus, our married life began with me in Singapore and Hannah in America, living separately. However, it didn't feel like we were that far apart. We kept a video chat app open all the time while at home. Even if we didn't have anything particular to say, we streamed our living spaces to each other. Just seeing each other's relaxed forms and hearing each other's voices with the real ambient sounds was comforting. There was no need to always have something to talk about. Just sharing the present moment was important and brought us happiness. Listening to the explanation, Michael began to tremble.
It can't be. My Hannah belonging to another man? I don't want to believe it. I've known Hannah much longer than you have. What are you talking about? You only came to the sales department after Hannah had already transferred here. So we have known each other longer. No, you don't know anything. I have known Hannah since before she started working here, from her previous job.
She gasped and cut off her words with an "oh." Indeed, she was always reluctant to talk about what she did before joining our company. Initially, I was curious, but eventually, It didn't matter much to me anymore.
Hannah used to be the voice of Cutie Pink in the Pretty Squad Cuties for the longest time. I was a member of her fan club and always made sure to get the front row seats at the voice actor events.
I was taken aback and could only gape in surprise. I never imagined that Hannah had been a voice actress. Indeed, she has a very appealing voice that instantly makes people feel warmly towards her. Voice acting has become a glamorous profession nowadays, almost as popular as idols or celebrities. A female colleague exclaimed joyfully.
Hannah was Cutie Pink. My daughter was a huge fan. She even has the doll. I did wonder why the show ended so abruptly. When I decided to quit, there was talk of finding a replacement, but the opposition was so fierce that it was called off. I even received comments saying it was better to end the show than to change the voice. I get it. For fans who are truly in love with their two-dimensional heroines, it's like having a different person altogether.
I had heard that there are men who support female characters in 2 dimensions and sometimes refer to these characters as wives. I have no intention of criticizing that. People have different ways of thinking, and as long as they don't bother anyone else with their lifestyle, there's no problem. But it was a different story when such an individual was causing actual trouble around them.
When Hannah stepped down due to rage, I was devastated. I wondered what I would live for. But then to meet her by chance at work, if that's not fate, what is?
This revelation made Michael's over-the-top behavior somewhat understandable. He was feeling sad because his favorite voice actor had retired, but then he was assigned to a department where that very idol worked. Even someone other than Michael would feel it was fate. Hannah looked embarrassed and looked down.
I never meant to hide it. I just didn't want to be celebrated just for fun. When I switched jobs, my father told me to face my new job with resolve. So I left my past behind. Were you working under your real name? Of course, I was using a stage name, but my voice is distinctive, and Michael recognized me immediately. He attended every event and remembered me from the autograph sessions and photo shoots.
It turns out she was quite the star. However, new talent constantly enters the voice acting industry. Even when participating in auditions, opportunities for newcomers with young and charming voices have increased. Thinking it was probably time for a change, Hannah consulted with her father and decided to start a second career at our company.
Hannah, it's not too late. Break up with that frivolous man and marry me. Then you be my Cutie Pink forever. Stop saying creepy things, please.
She turned pale and clung to me. I firmly supported her. It seems a major problem had arisen in the sales department, as reported by someone from another department to the boss. Chairman Morgan entered the room.
What's all this commotion? I understand today is Tom's first day back and some excitement is expected, but isn't this a bit much? Mr. Morgan, I'm terribly sorry. I've just discovered that Hannah is your daughter. Just because you now know Hannah is my daughter, does that change your position in any way, Michael? I've heard all about you from her.
Upon hearing those words, Michael seemed to have made a big misunderstanding. He apparently thought that Hannah had feelings for him and had been reporting his excellence to George.
Mr. Morgan, I've always loved Hannah, even from her voice acting days. I want to continue walking with her in life. Please accept our relationship. What are you talking about, young man? Hannah has been married to Tom for 2 years now. She is troubled by your actions. If you can't adjust your behavior, you will have to leave this company.
Hannah, clinging to me, seized the moment to speak out.
Considering how long you've supported me during my voice acting career, I've been patient. But I can't stand it anymore. I'm Tom's wife, not your wife. I can't stand even breathing the same air as you. Hannah, don't say such things. To think I love you this much, what a cruel thing to say. You're being deceived by Tom. It's not true love if you can stay apart for 2 years so easily. Dad, please do something. I can't bear to work at a company with him.
George looked at Michael intently before speaking quietly.
Michael, you'll have to leave. Your obsession with my daughter is abnormal. To prevent the worst case scenario,
it's necessary to separate you and Hannah.
No, I refuse to be separated from Hannah.
I felt the pathological nature of his obsession with Hannah. George seemed to feel the same, and decided to hold off on firing Michael. In a situation that truly embodied the phrase "keep your friends close and your enemies closer," George chose to allow Michael stay at the company while keeping him at a distance from Hannah. Michael was demoted from sales manager to general affairs manager. Furthermore, the company arranged for him to receive counseling through an affiliated institution. Initially, Michael resisted and complained, but eventually, he began to quietly attend counseling sessions. To inform all employees that Hannah and I were married, George decided to host a grand wedding reception. There, George and I finally had the chance to see Hannah in her wedding dress. Tall and stunning, she looked like a model. At the reception, we were blessed with many well wishes from the employees, and George made a surprising announcement. He declared that I would be appointed as the next CEO during the upcoming personnel changes. I knew about this in advance but was anxious about the other employees' reactions. When the announcement was made, the room erupted in applause. Moved by emotion, I stood up and gave a greeting. Hannah, beside me, clapped her hands happily. I renewed my resolve to work hard, especially for her sake. Now widely known as George's daughter, Hannah decided to take a break from the company. Determined to have children while still at a safe age, she decided to focus on fertility treatments. With this in mind, we wanted to change our environment and decided to relocate to Australia. Although my days were busy traveling the world as CEO, I made sure to cherish the moments spent just with Hannah. Perhaps due to favorable circumstances, Hannah safely gave birth to a daughter. We named her Amanda. As her parent, I may be biased, but she is a charming child and will likely grow up to be beautiful. George, now our doting grandfather, frequently visited our home in Australia. Hannah seemed happy with her relaxed lifestyle. As for Michael, who had troubled Hannah, it seemed the counseling had worked, as his obsession with Hannah diminished. However, losing his star was a significant sadness that led him to despair. He became reckless as his fantasies about Hannah were denied. Unable to truly love a real-life woman, and wanting to fully enjoy the world of anime, he quit his job. Consequently, he stopped going to counseling and began to revert back to his old lifestyle. Around that time, a character in his favorite anime, voiced by someone with a voice similar to Hannah's, became popular. Michael gradually became obsessed with the characters and their voice actors. With each event, he participated in the front row, spending a substantial amount of money. This was similar to his behavior with Hannah, but with a twist. The voice actress, who had a voice similar to Hannah's, was not particularly attractive. At the event, after seeing her actual face and style, Michael became completely despondent. He began to withdraw into his home, and his savings started to dwindle. He then shifted his interest to a popular mobile game featuring beautiful characters. To fully enjoy the game, Michael had to spend a significant amount of money, and he became completely addicted. Due to the expenses, he accumulated debts, sold his condominium, and moved into a small apartment. What is important varies from person to person. Michael's choice to spend on virtual characters was his own. However, as he spent all his waking hours playing and participating in various events, no amount of money seemed enough. His quest to perfect his avatar led him into a bottomless pit of spending. Michael was perhaps happiest living in a fantasy world of dreams and illusions. Each time Michael's story comes up, I find myself pondering the nature of human happiness. Time flies, and soon Amanda will be 3 years old. Day by day, she grows more adorable and is the talk of the neighborhood for her beauty. Some celebrities have even suggested she enter the show business world. However, having faced many challenges herself, Hannah is hesitant to involve Amanda in such a world. I share the same opinion, and concluded with Amanda that it's best to wait until her intentions become clear. Lately, Hannah has been feeling the urge to return to work. She was indeed vibrant during her time in the sales department. Our company has a daycare, which allows mothers with young children to work energetically. Hannah wanted to return to work, and I was happy to support her decision. When she was considering resuming her career, we debated whether to hide the fact that she was the CEO's wife. Given Michael's past behavior, we eventually decided to disclose it and arranged for her to work in our Australian branch. Hannah thrived in her role and seemed truly happy. Seeing the joyful smiles of my wife and daughter has become my greatest joy and purpose in life. The job of a CEO is tough, but as I lead a fulfilling life, I consider myself the happiest person in the world,